Hello, this is Jennifer Locke. I'm the Director of National and International Fellowships at Oxy, and I want to welcome you to our Sophomore Fellowships Workshop. Um, Thanks for being patient as I work to try to figure out how to make this best work online. So this is a session I would normally be giving in person, but today I'm going to sort of talk you through the slides. Please feel free to email me after you watch this recording to let me know any questions that you might have. Please also refer to that handbook that I sent out because that has a chart listing a bunch of different fellowships. So today's goal is to really talk about an overview of fellowships and scholarships that Oxy students and alumni often apply for, and just talk a little bit about what they fund and what a fellowship is. So this is really kind of the big picture day. Next week, we'll kind of dive in a little bit more to fellowships writing. And then after that, we'll talk about kind of your Oxy trajectory and how you might plan for applying for a fellowship. I'll apologize in advance if you can hear my daughter in the background. She was singing some TV soundtrack stuff. So there might be different kind of noise. I'm recording this from home, but hopefully you can hear me okay. And again, please follow up with any questions, and I'd love to chat with you one-on-one too. Okay, so let's get started. So the first question I get a lot is, what's a fellowship? Like, what are you talking about when you say applying for fellowships? So a fellowship is a really broad term that's money that's given for particular kinds of work over a set period of time. So maybe it's academic work, like you are getting funded to do a research project or funded to teach, or maybe you're getting funded to study in grad school. So those are all possibilities. Other things would be ones that look a little bit more like paid internships. For example, getting to work for an organization for a year, that they might call that a fellowship, or getting to basically develop your own kind of project and apply for funding. So maybe doing a community engagement fellowship. So all of those kind of fall into that umbrella. In general, what my office works with is external awards. So I try to connect students and alumni to outside funding. So I'm not connected to Oxy financial aid or to the Oxy grants like the Richter grants or summer research funding or anything like that. I am trying to connect students mostly to outside grants. So that's really where I come in. In terms of Oxy students and alumni, there's a lot of different kinds of grants that they've won. So I'm going to talk more in depth about a lot of these grants in later slides, but I just wanted to show you this sort of big list so you can see that there's a lot of different things that are definitely within Oxy students' reach, and that Oxy students have gone around the globe through a lot of these grants. Obviously, it's sort of a weird time for grants right now because of the sort of the State Department's level 4 travel level warning. So there's a lot of our Fulbrighters, for example, are being asked to come home right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty. But you're sophomores and you're thinking about the sort of distant future. So hopefully things will get ironed out in the next year, and you could still be able to go kind of around the globe with a lot of these awards. All right, so I'm actually going to take you back to the 2018-19 cycle because this cycle, the 2019-2020 cycle, is still in process, so we don't have all the numbers yet. But this just gives you a sense of how many different things Oxy students were applying for in that particular academic year. As you can see, we have a ton of Fulbright applicants, critical language scholarship applicants, Truman scholarship applicants. Again, I'll talk a lot about these individual awards in later slides, but just wanted to show you how many Oxy students and alumni are applying for things. And in that year, we had 74 student and alumni applicants total who were awarded 23 fellowships and scholarships. So that's pretty good. So they're definitely competitive contests, but ones that Oxy students do really well with. I wanted to give you a picture of some of our seniors from last year who ended up winning awards. I've been asking them to send me pictures, so these are just some of the seniors who won awards to do cool things after graduation. I want to talk also about the broader benefits of applying, especially for some of the most competitive awards. Students often ask me, should I even bother if it's hard to get it? And I usually say yes, as long as you have the time to do it, because there's a lot of benefits you get besides the chance of winning the award. So if you apply for one of these fellowships, you get better at applying for other things, which sounds obvious, but it's really helpful to have the time to sort of sit down and focus on an application that you can then sort of recycle and use for graduate school or use for job searches or all kinds of different opportunities where you might be asking for admission somewhere or asking for money for something. You also develop writing and interview skills, especially in genres that are a little different from your normal academic genres. So personal statement writing, for example, and proposal writing. And you learn more about yourself. I've heard this over and over from students who've applied, that they learn more about what they want to do or more about how to communicate what they've achieved through the process of sitting down and doing a fellowships application. So I often tell people the worst thing that happens if you apply is that you have these skills and this sort of like body of writing that you can use for other things, which is not a bad outcome. Okay, so I promised I'd talk about some of these awards in a little more depth, so let's go ahead and. So Fulbright is the sort of number one award in terms of applications. So it does have, because it's funded by the State Department, it does have the restriction that you have to be a US citizen. But other than that, it's really open to all Oxy students as long as you match that citizenship requirement. So it has, it's open to all majors, and we have many majors applying to Fulbright awards. You can do either research or study through it, or you can teach English in a different country. Usually you spend 9 or 12 months in one country, and you need to basically put together a research plan and your qualifications for that plan, or make a case for your teaching skills and how you would be a good asset to their English teaching program if you are applying to that award. Just to do a little bit of a snapshot, the Chronicle of Higher Education ranks U.S. undergraduate institutions in terms of their Fulbright numbers, and Oxy, in the last rankings, Oxy ranked 10th nationally amongst liberal arts colleges, which is pretty cool. Last year, again, we had 36 applicants and 8 award grantees. And as I mentioned before, that those applicants represented a number of different departments and programs, and they applied for awards in 23 countries. So Oxy students are really thinking globally, which is great. You may have heard of some of these British and Irish scholarships. These are ones that fund a year or 2 master's degrees in the UK or Ireland after graduation, and they're probably the most competitive category of fellowships that I'll talk about in these slides, just in terms of the number of applications they receive for the number of spots they have. This is one of the more long shot competitions. That being said, it's not impossible. We had a Gates Cambridge finalist last year. We've had Rhodes winners. So it's definitely within the grasp of Oxy students. These awards often require not just excellent academics, but also demonstrated leadership skills. And the Marshall Scholarship, for example, will ask you to write an essay just on leadership. So this is something you need to be thinking about as you put together an application. And some examples of those: Oxy just got on the list for the Churchill Scholarship, which is for STEM students to do a year at Cambridge after graduation. Oxy students can also apply for the Marshall Scholarship, which is 1 or 2 years at any UK university, the Mitchell Scholarship, which is 1 year at any Irish university, the Rhodes Scholarship, that has the best name recognition, it's the oldest, and it's 2 years at Oxford, and then the Gates Cambridge, which is 1 year at Cambridge. So a lot of times people, if they're interested in these awards, they might apply for more than one. There's no limit to how many you can apply for. For most of them, you actually have to go through an Oxy nomination process. The exception is Gates Cambridge, which you can apply directly to Cambridge for. That being said, I would love to help you with any of these applications, so please be in touch with me if you're thinking of applying. There's also grad school scholarships that are based in the US. Knight Hennessy actually just hosted an info session with us today, and they have a lot of information online. That's a Stanford graduate scholarship, so it's tied to a specific school. And it sees itself as kind of like a Rhodes Scholarship, but for Stanford, and it's bringing in a lot of scholars from around the world who are focused in various graduate disciplines, including med school and law school. And that one's open to international students as well as to US students. So that's an example of like a school-based scholarship. There's also subject-based scholarships. So the next two on this list are examples of that. So the National Science Foundation has fellowships for early career graduate students in the STEM fields. So that's one you could apply to that's more subject-based. And then Pickering is an example. There's a few of these that are for people who are interested in going into the Foreign Service. So again, NSF and Pickering, those are examples of more subject-based graduate scholarships. And finally, there's a category of what you might call population-based graduate scholarships. So the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship is for newly naturalized immigrants or children of immigrants to apply to any kind of graduate school field in the U.S. And the Ford Foundation is for it is meant to support people from diverse backgrounds who want to become professors. So they're trying to increase the diversity of academia through that fellowship. So again, those are a little bit more population-based. There's also additional international grad school scholarships that fund graduate school outside of the UK and Ireland. So the DAAD study grant is for Germany. We had an Oxy student win this for a 2-year master's program last year. That's a very well-funded program for people who are interested in graduate school in Germany. There's also a couple that are focused more in China. So Schwartzman is specifically kind of business and IR focused, and the Yenching Academy is for Chinese studies. So these are other ones that are open to students with excellent academic records who are interested in going abroad. There's also ones that you might call more experiential learning. These ones tend to look a little bit more like paid internships. So there's Capital Fellows, which places its fellows in different branches of the California state government for a year after graduation. There's the Gaither Junior Fellows Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, where you are a research assistant at the Carnegie Endowment for a year, and Oxy can nominate 2 seniors or recent alumni for that program every year. And then there's the Choral Fellows. We have a lot of Oxy alumni in this program, which is basically kind of like a rotating internship focused on issues of local government and local politics that really take you into sort of various facets of a city and how it's run. Some of Oxy alumni have ended up working for, say public transportation in LA because they were part of the Choral Fellows program. That's not all, though. There's a bunch of other awards. You might, for example, look into the Luce Scholarship, which places its fellows in different locations in Asia that are sort of like tailored to your interests. So you can work for a company or work for a nonprofit, an NGO, a university, a government. There's all sorts of opportunities there for people who have not had much experience in Asia. And then there's also ones, as I mentioned before, that fund community service projects that you help put together, such as the Davis Projects for Peace. So while all of those were ones that you apply to as seniors for the most part, you do not have to be a senior to apply to a fellowship. So I wanted to really quickly go over some awards you can apply for earlier. So first years and sophomores can apply for study abroad scholarships, for example, like the Bourne and Gilman, and the Critical Language Scholarship, which is in the summer. There's also the Fulbright UK Summer Institutes, only for first years and sophomores, to apply to basically do summer school in the UK. There's also several awards that you apply to as a junior. I will say with a caveat that Truman Scholarship, we're actually collecting applications from sophomores this year, trying to get an earlier application cycle going. But in general, we collect from juniors awards for the Beinecke Scholarship, which is for grad school in the humanities, social sciences, and arts for people who have are on financial aid. The Goldwater Scholarship is for people who want to get into STEM research. Udall Scholarship is for people interested in the environment and sustainability, as well as Native rights and Native issues. And the Strauss Fellowship is another community service focused award. So I know that that was a lot of information. This is, again, an overview of a lot of different awards. All of the awards I mentioned should be in that chart that I sent you, which is in that handbook. So you can feel free to sort of pore over that for more details. There's a lot more details on our website as well. And I'm again happy to meet with any of you one-on-one so you can ask me questions or talk about your own interests, and we can talk about what awards might be a good fit for you based on that. All right, thanks so much for joining. And again, please email me questions. I'm Jennifer Locke, and you can reach me at jlock@oxy.edu.